Well, let's take a look, and let me again warn you that you need to be taking notes, because if you write it down and are reinforced with the goal planner and the goal planner instruction manual and all of the recordings and the music, then it becomes a part of you. Want to emphatically say that if you're going to reach your goals, whatever the goal is, you must start from a solid foundation. You must build your life on honesty and character and integrity and on faith and on love and on loyalty. Regardless of whether you're building a life, a business, a corporation, a country, a family, it doesn't make any difference what it is, you must start from a solid foundation. You can take a good engineer, lead him to downtown any city USA. He can look at the hole in the ground and tell you how high the building is going to be by the foundation they're going to erect. One of the nicest things about having a solid foundation is the fact that when you do experience some reverses in your life, and many times that does happen, you can never fall to the basement. All you can do is go back to the foundation. So you've got a stopping point, and any mountain climber will tell you that you better put some secured areas there so that if something happens, you can only fall the certain length of the rope which is attached to you. That way you can start climbing again. Yes, you've got to have that solid foundation. As we've talked about these various goals, I wanted to make it crystal clear that if you zero in on only one goal, you will probably achieve it. But I've never seen a person who only had one goal who also was happy in the process. They might have a goal to make millions of dollars, and they might well get it. But along the way, something's happened to the stomach and to the family and a few other things. If I were to make literally millions of dollars and destroy my health in the process, I would not, in my mind, be a successful individual. If I were to become the very best in the whole world at what I do, I mean the very finest on the face of this earth, gain all of the accolades internationally, and in the process lose the relationship with those who mean the most to me, then I, as far as I am concerned, would have lost it all. What a tragedy it would be if someday my son were to come to me, or one of my daughters were to come to me and say, "Gee, Dad, I sure wish you had had time to have given me some of the advice you so freely gave to other people." Folks, it would tear my heart right out of my body. I believe you got to have the right foundation. I believe you got to keep your life in perspective. I believe you've got to have a series of goals, and that certainly includes the family goals and the social goals and the spiritual goals and the career goals. That's the reason in your goal planner itself we have put those areas aside so that you can write in clearly identifying what it is, spelling out and identifying the steps which you need to take if you're going to achieve a balanced life and reach all of the goals which are there. And as we look at these goals, a lot of times people say to me, "Well, Zig, or ask me, who should you share your goals with? Who should you tell about what you're going to do?" Well, here's a rule of thumb which I have found to be very effective. I share my go-up goals with only those people I know who are going to support what I'm doing, who are optimistic and who are enthusiastic and who believe in what I'm doing. I share my give-up goals with virtually everyone. Now, what is the difference? A give-up goal is if I'm going to quit drinking, if I'm going to lose that weight, if I'm going to quit cussing, if I'm going to quit beating my wife, if I'm going to, quit doing all of these things. Those are give-up goals. If you've got a give-up goal, then you want to share it with anybody and everybody. If you're going to quit smoking, let other people know about it. Put yourself on the spot. They will be glad to support you. Now, if it's a go-up goal, that's an entirely different thing. So I'm going to make $1 million, and people look at you and say, "You are." Or if you come out, you know, and if you say, I'm going to be the number one salesman or the number one sales lady in this entire organization, and you're telling another sales lady that, she's not going to give you a whole lot of encouragement in many cases. Share those go up goals only with people whom you know are enthusiastically behind you and who will support you in reaching that particular goal. The second thing I would say about reaching the goals, or the third thing really, is you got to make the commitment. Now, I have talked about that a little bit earlier, making the commitment. But let me emphasize another point about commitment. When I was writing this book, in the first chapter I wrote it on goals. And as I wrote in there, I put down that I weighed 165 pounds. I wrote down that I had a 34-inch waistline. Now, the minute I had that typeset, I actually weighed 202 pounds. I actually had a 41-inch waistline. Now, can you imagine how effective this book would have been if I had in there that I weighed 165 pounds and I come waddling out, you know, at 202 pounds? You know what you would be thinking all the time? You'd be thinking to yourself, I wonder what else that dude lied to me about. Let me tell you one of the basic truisms of life, and the reason I keep getting back to the foundation, you and I are exactly alike in one respect. I catch you lying to me one time about one thing, and from that moment on, I'm going to put a question mark after everything you tell me. And you do me exactly the same way. You catch me lying to you one time about one thing, and you're going to be putting question marks after everything I say. And my effectiveness as an instructor, as a speaker, as a teacher, as an example is totally destroyed because my credibility is gone. When I put in there that I weighed 165 pounds, folks, I want you to know that was a commitment. Because the second part of the commitment was, I tried to get this book published. I sent it to 3 major publishers. I just knew they were going to get all excited about publishing my book. I visualized sitting there and listening to the bidding war. This publisher bidding this much, and that one bidding this much, and that one bidding that much, and I was going to sit back and say, now you fellers be nice to each other. I mean, after all, I'll write you another book someday. Oh, I just knew they'd fall all over themselves to publish my book. Can you believe, though, in short order, all 3 publishers sent the book back to me and said, we don't think that thing's going to sell, you know. I couldn't imagine 3 theoretically intelligent people arriving simultaneously at such an asinine decision. It was beyond my imagination. Well, now I got to make a decision. See, do I really believe that book's going to sell, or do I just want somebody else to take all the risk? See, it's one thing if I say, publish my book, and if it sells, pay me the royalties. And if it doesn't sell, gee, I'm sorry about that. I really am. Now you see, I've got to either fish or cut bait, haven't I? I got to make the decision, am I willing to put my money where my mouth was? Well, I knew the book would sell because, you see, I write exactly the same way I speak. Now, I don't write as fast as I talk, so you have a better chance to assimilate, you know, what's there. But, you know, I tell folks I'm like a cross-eyed discus thrower. I don't set any records, but I do keep the crowd alert, you know. I knew that book was going to sell. I decided I was going to publish it myself. Now, a friend of mine said, Zig, if you sell 25,000 copies, you got a bestseller. Well, that appealed to me enormously, so I said, well, why not? 25,000 copies. Well, I don't know if you knew this about books or not, but I can say this to you, that it cost a ton of dough to publish 25,000 copies, because the first copy cost more than the next 24,999 copies, and they cost a ton. I have made a commitment. I put it in print. I weigh 165, have a 34-inch waistline. I have ordered 25,000 books. So step number 3 literally is you got to make that commitment. Now, step number 4 involves something which I think you need to understand. So many times when I'm making a presentation, you know, I'll finish talking about losing the weight and all, and I'll have some dude come up to me and say, now, Ziglar, tell me the truth. And lying to me up until now, boy, tell me the truth. Did you really enjoy getting up at 5:30 in the morning and doing all of that running? I'm going to tell you the truth. I hated it. That opportunity clock would sound off, you know, at 5:30 in the morning, and I'd reach over and I'd shut it off, and I'd think to myself, Ziglar, what's a 46-year-old fat boy like you doing getting up running all over the neighborhood? Then I'd look down at that 41-inch waistline and I'd say, do you want to look like you, or do you want to look like the guy in the jockey shorts? Well, I didn't want to look like me, so I'd get up and I'd go out to run. But just because I was out there running, that doesn't necessarily mean I was enjoying it. I'd get up and say, I don't know what I'm trying to do. Acting like a teenager, my buddies are sound asleep in bed, and here I am out here running. I'm going to kill my silly self. But I said I was going to do it, and if I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it. I mean, that's the way I am. And don't you think I didn't tell people about it either, friends, relatives, neighbors, and complete strangers, about this terrible sacrifice I was making because I was getting up in the morning to do all of that running. Oh, friends, let me tell you something. You give a motivational speaker long enough, and before he is through, he's going to get up and with an impassioned strain in his voice and a plea in his face, he's going to say to you, you got to pay the price. Sound like a dying calf in a snowstorm. Biggest bunch of baloney ever foisted on an undeserving, unsuspecting American public. Oh, don't misunderstand. I have literally run in the snow of Winnipeg, Canada. I've run in far north Norway. I've run in Hyde Park across from Buckingham Palace. I have run on safari in South Africa. As a matter of fact, I ran faster there than anywhere. I've run in the mountains of Montana, the sands of Acapulco, the orange groves of Florida, the rain of Minneapolis. I have run literally almost all over this globe. And one day I was running in Portland, Oregon. Beautiful spring day, about 78 degrees. It was high noon. I had a 4 o'clock seminar scheduled. Portland State University campus is only 2 weeks from downtown. And as I was out there running, you know, on Portland State University campus, I looked around, and a lot of the kids, the students were out there laying on blankets. Some were reading, some were studying, some were snoozing, some were courting. And here comes old Ziglar running by. Sweat running down my back, sweat running down my legs, you know. And that day, for the first time, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was no longer paying the price. I was having a ball. I was having the time of my life. And it hit me that, you see, you literally don't pay the price. You enjoy the price because you enjoy the benefits.